Hey, this is Alan Stein, Leadership Performance Coach, and you are listening to Success is a Choice with Jamy Bechler.
Providing insights to help you grow your business, improve yourself, and add value to those around you. You're listening to the Success is a Choice podcast, where you get a peek into the lives of industry leaders as they share their stories with you.
Welcome to Success is the Choice podcast. This is your host, Jamy Bechler. And today we're very honored to have Ruston Pierce as our guest. Ruston is the head of school at Mount Pisgah School in Atlanta, Georgia, where he has created a cutting-edge leadership training and mentoring program for his staff. Ruston, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you.
You've had quite a career. You know, you're the head of school right now down in Atlanta, but you've had quite the varied and quite an exciting career. You know, you started off way back in the day as a star quarterback in the star-crazed state of Tennessee. And you went on to be a college athlete, college coach. You've been a dean of students. You've been a director of development. You've been a staff member for Young Life. You've worked in high schools. You've worked in colleges. You've raised a lot of money. You've been headmaster. Talk to us about your journey, about the experiences and all of them leading up to now, kind of how they all prepare you for this next opportunity in your life.
Sure. Well, first of all, I've been really blessed. I've been able to be surrounded by a lot of people over the years who really actively poured into me, and I was fortunate to get a lot of on-the-job training early in my career. I was put in positions that honestly people my age shouldn't have been in, and was able to get a lot of on-the-job experience, and honestly be given the opportunity to fail pretty consistently. Which was the best learning curve I could possibly have asked for. The first 5 years I was in education, I got to work for Becky Hansard at Silverdale Academy in Chattanooga. And Becky was the founding head of school. She's still there today, and is easily one of the best leaders I've ever been around. She has an incredible humility about how she leads. She allows her people to do their jobs well. She comes alongside and closely guides, but doesn't feel invasive. And just learned a great deal from getting to watch her every day, and a lot of what I do right now, I'm basically just copying her because I saw someone who just understood how to get the most out of people and how to truly love people and make them feel valued, and so I try and mimic everything I watched her do for 5 years.
When you were at Silverdale, then you went on to continue being a coach, continue in education, and you ended up at the college level, and then you got an opportunity in Knoxville. Talk to us a little bit about when you went to college and then transitioning from college back to high school.
Yeah, I was, again, very fortunate. The job that I was in at higher education was kind of a catch-all. Basically, everything that I did at the college pertained to high schools and potential students coming to the college. And so I was immersed in admissions, financial aid, marketing, online programs, and was able to get my feet wet in a lot of different areas, all of which ended up translating to a lot of what I'm doing today. It was a funny scenario. I probably should not have left the college, but a search firm contacted me about a head of school position in Knoxville. I turned the job down 3 times. And the search group just would not stop pursuing. And finally, one day, I asked the guy. I said, "You know, what is it that keeps you coming back? Because I've turned this down and turned it down." And he said, "You know, this school gave us 14 criteria of what they were looking for, and your resume is the only one I've seen that has all 14. And so I would not be doing my job if I didn't continue to pursue you and make sure that you weren't the right person for this position." And then we found out he was right. My wife and I went and toured that school. We started looking into it and realized that it was a great opportunity and it was a good fit for our family. And it was a phenomenal opportunity to really grow a school from the ground. It was a school that had been established for about 20 to 25 years, but had never really had an identity in the community. It was kind of an afterthought, and it was a great opportunity to go in and really put a fingerprint on something and say, this is what I believe a great school looks like. Let's go make that happen.
You talk about you built it from the ground up, or, it was established, but you took it to another level. What were some of the things that you did? I know that you raised quite a bit of money, and you definitely changed their mentality to take it to that level, because you were competing against a lot of top-notch private schools there in the Knoxville area.
Yes, and we were also competing against one of the top public schools in the entire country. There's a high school that was about one block from our school that on a regular basis is listed in the USA Today top 25 public schools in America. So when I got there, one of the things that I kept hearing over and over was, well, Farragut is right down the street. You can't grow, because why would anybody pay when they can go to Farragut for free, and it's one of the top 25 schools in America. So when I got there, we had 365 students, K through 12. We had about 175 to 200 in the preschool, and 3 years later, we had 815 K through 12, and approximately 400 in the preschool. And so, inevitably people ask two questions when they hear that kind of growth. We were the fastest growing school in this city. Most likely we were the fastest growing in the state, but it was hard to quantify that. So people typically ask two questions. They say, number one, did you take everybody with a pulse? No, we didn't. We had extremely high standards. We actually turned away quite a few families who we didn't feel were going to be a good fit. And then the second question they ask is, in that massive of a growth, in that short of a period of a time, did you lose who you are? And the way I answer that is, no, we absolutely did not, because we basically hung our hat on three areas. First of all, we identified who we were, and we very clearly told people that. We created a breakdown of what our ideal graduate would look like, and then we started patterning everything we did around that ideal. The second thing we did was we recognized that there was a niche in the market for a school that was innovative and kind of cutting edge when it came to social media, came to online. And so we started marketing ourselves very heavily through social media and really telling our story through social media. And no one else in town was doing it anywhere near the level we were. And so we knew we had arrived when we became the most followed school in town. And then we knew we'd really arrived when two other schools just straight copied what we were doing. And so we could watch other schools and say, okay, clearly, they recognize that we're doing this really well. And then the third thing we did was we spent a lot of time in the community. We actively engaged the community. We wanted to be known as the school that if you need anything at all in the community, you called us. And so, that created visibility. It created something different in the community. They saw a Christian school that was actually living out its faith and not just talking about it. And I think the culmination of those three things, saying who we are, strategically talking about who we are through innovative social media, and then going out in the community and living it out, I think the combination of those three things were why we experienced explosive growth.
In order to accomplish those three objectives, you probably have to have a pretty good team around you, and you have to have buy-in. How were you able to get that, to get ownership among your team and to get everybody to be invested in those principles?
I think first you have to come in and show people that you mean it, and that you care about them and you care about their input. The first thing I did when I got to that school, and I just finished it, or I'm about to finish it here in Mount Pisgah, I have 8 questions that I ask every employee, and I tell, when I walk into a situation, I tell every single employee they're going to get an hour. And in that hour, I ask them my 8 questions, and then they can ask me anything they want. And so I think that creates a comfort level right off the bat of, number one, I'm approachable. Number two, I'm in this with them. And number three, I want to hear their feedback. Doesn't mean I'm going to respond to their feedback. Doesn't mean I'm going to run with their feedback and go, this is absolutely what we should do, but I'm going to hear it. And in those 8 questions, I'm looking for several things. The first thing I'm looking for is a theme. I'm looking for, did 75% of our faculty and staff say the same thing when I asked one question? If so, then clearly that's a theme, and we need, that's probably part of our identity, and I need to follow up on that and figure out why that is what it is. The second thing I'm watching is I'm watching body language. I want to find out who my people are that are genuine. I want to find out who my people are that already are bought into what we're doing and are just sold out for the school. And a lot of times through their body language, they'll tell me that. If they're very uncomfortable in that meeting, then it also kind of tells me moving forward, they might be a great employee, but I have to approach them very carefully when I talk to them about things. So it tells me a lot about who they are as individuals. So you take that information, and then you start crafting who you are, and you start looking at roles, and you say, who is the right team to have in the room to be the decision makers? Do you have a good balance of thinkers and doers? Because if you fill the room with thinkers and you don't have any doers, nothing's going to get done. You're just going to sit around and talk for months. So we had to make sure we had a good balance of thinkers and doers, and we had people who were thinking through long-range planning, but we also had people who were going and taking action items and making short-range goals happen. And so we crafted the whole thing. I believe in a room of about 7 to 8 people. I think once you get past 8, it's very hard to manage, and you start getting off mission, and you start kind of drifting and down rabbit trails. And so, you have to identify who are those 7 or 8, and can you depend on them, and how do you build chemistry within that group? I think that's crucial. I love Patrick Lencioni's book, The Advantage. I think it's crucial for an administrative team or a executive team to work through right off the bat, so that everybody in the room knows what they're working toward, how every other person in the room thinks, and make sure that everybody's on the same page. Because when they walk out of that room, I have 180 employees. Right now, there's 6 people in my executive room. So when the 7 of us walk out to the other 173, we have to be saying the same things, or else we're going to fail.
How much of this philosophy in the way that you conduct yourself as a leader stems from your career in sports, your background in sports, both as an athlete and a coach? How has that shaped you?
Yeah, definitely. I'm a big Duke fan. I heard Mike Krzyzewski several years ago talk about a head coach is only as good as his assistant coaches. And so, he pours into his assistant coaches. I believe Nick Saban used to say, I want all of our assistant coaches to be in demand, because if they're not, then we suck. And so, I take that approach into what I do every day. I want my administrators to be in demand. I want to pour into them. I want to make sure they're excellent at what they do. We talk about that constantly. I tell our people, if you're not in demand, we're not doing things very well. And people need to know who you are, and they need to be impressed by the things that you do. And, I need to be in a situation where I'm having to figure out how I'm going to pay you more to keep you, because there's so much demand around you. And, when people feel that, when people feel that comfort level with you of, they can come to you and say, hey, I got this offer. I'm not sure I want to take it. Is there anything you can do? Can we talk through this? And just having honest conversation around how we can grow them as individuals. But, you can't, when you have 180 employees, you can't be the show. You can't be the end all and be all. You have to be surrounded by great people. Great example that happened literally this week. A month ago, one of my administrators came to me, and she was in the process of a really impressive opportunity. And she came to me and said, hey, I don't know how to have this conversation, but I think this is an opportunity I need to pursue. And we talked it through, and I reaffirmed her and said, that's absolutely an opportunity you need to pursue. We would hate to lose you, but I'm just going to tell you up front, I'm not going to be able to match what they can pay you. And honestly, for your career and for your success, this is something you need to go after. And so last week she found out she got it. And we celebrated that. Wednesday morning, we had all of our faculty and staff in a room, and she announced to them what she was going to be doing, and we prayed over her and kind of commissioned her into the next season she's going into. Most people would look at that in the real world. They would look at that and go, that was a failure. That person who was highly successful is leaving us, and we couldn't keep her. We're trying to shift a culture here to the thought process of, no, we celebrate that. We could not keep her because the opportunity she got was too strong. But that says a lot about who we are corporately, that she was that much in demand. And so, now my job is to find someone who is as good as her to replace her. And so that's how I believe we function. And it goes back to coaching. When I was a high school baseball coach, I was only as good as my assistant coaches. I could not work with every kid sufficiently enough to make them successful. I had to have great assistants who understood how we talk, who understood how we teach, and who were all teaching the same things so we could maximize our players.
We'll return to the interview with Ruston Pierce shortly, but I wanted to take a moment to mention something that goes hand in hand with what Ruston is talking about. He is passionate about developing students and building up their character. Frederick Douglass once said that it is easier to build strong children than it is to repair broken men. Well, we have put together a book that helps student athletes learn how to be better leaders and positive teammates. It is called The Leadership Playbook, Become Your Team's Most Valuable Leader. You see, when we help develop today's students, we also help influence the future. Visit theleadershipplaybook.com to learn more about this impactful book. And now back to more insights from Ruston.
It's obvious listening to you that you have a passion for leadership, for developing people, and building a team around you. And that's one of the reasons behind you starting this mentorship and leadership program there at Mount Pisgah. Tell us a little bit about the origins of that, why you came up with this idea, and what exactly it entails.
Yeah, for years I've wanted to do a leadership development program in a school, and have never, honestly, it requires money, and I've never had a budget where I can make it work. Coming into this situation at Mount Pisgah has had a long history of hiring really good people, but then promoting them into positions that they weren't quite ready for, and then basically saying sink or swim. And so coming in, I inherited an administrative team, all levels of administration, who were all basically internally promoted. We have a pretty healthy budget, and so there was an opportunity to finally do what I'd always wanted to do. And so last spring we started talking through, okay, how can we make this work? What would it look like? Who needs to be engaged? And we crafted a 2-year program that we're calling the RISE program, and RISE is an acronym, and it's based out of our mission statement, and it stands for Reach, Inspire, Serve, Equip. And so the RISE program we launched to our faculty and staff, and every employee on campus had an opportunity to apply back in the spring. We had 26 applicants. We only had 8 spots because we wanted to keep it small, and we wanted to be able to pour into people very specifically. So 8 out of 26 were selected based on their application. It's a diverse cross-section of administrators, teachers who think they want to be administrators, support staff people who think they want to aspire to more down the road, and it gives us an opportunity to very specifically pour into them in a variety of ways. Year 1 is all professional. It's professional development that's specific to them. Things like we already had every one of them take their Berkman test. And in that Berkman assessment, we had a Berkman specialist come, and he broke down the room and told all of them how they are going to interact with each other based on how each other think. And he talked through what their obstacles are going to be. And he was very specific and talked about, this person is going to struggle with this. So when you all are working on this project over here, you've got to be careful what you hand her when it comes to this concept. We are requiring them to get their feet wet administratively. Our senior administration created a list of things that they wanted to delegate to this group, and this group throughout the course of this year is going to be working on a list of things that kind of shows them, do I really want to be in administration? We have different guest speakers coming in throughout the year. We're having you come in next month to talk about team building and chemistry and how you build groups around you. We have a guy coming in who works with John Maxwell, and he's going to be talking about innovation and how you basically create time in your day by innovating and streamlining the things that you're working on. And so throughout the year, we're going to have different things on conflict management, how you learn to delegate, all the soft skills and all the things that they need to be a successful administrator that people typically don't teach. And then year 2, we also required them, we're helping them each find a mentor who does their aspiring job. In year 2, they will move to the second year of the program, and we will bring in 8 more people in year 1. And part of their role in year 2 is a personal and spiritual development year, but they will also be mentoring the year 1s. So it's a constant cycle where after this year, we will have 16 people every year on campus going through our leadership development program. And, we freed up some money to be able to give them a stipend, so we can incentivize them to work hard. And it's a little bit of merit pay. It tells them, hey, we're investing in you, so we need you to invest in us. And then we also freed up some budget money to be able to bring in guest speakers and let them hear from a wide cross section of people from different levels of leadership who can pour into them in very specific ways. So we're excited about it. It's interesting, as I've talked to different people about coming in and speaking, I tell them what we're doing, and I had one guy who said, I'm an executive coach. I've worked with industry and with business for 25 years, and I've never seen a company do this. And he just loved it. And he said, I would love to come talk to them, and I would love to see exactly what they're doing, so I can encourage other businesses I come in contact to replicate it. So it's been neat to watch. They're getting a lot out of it. They're getting their feet wet in a lot of different areas, and I think it's been very positive.
And you were onto something with what you said earlier, is that sometimes your school were hiring good people. They were hiring the right people, but they weren't necessarily equipping them for every job or task or responsibility that they might have. And it's kind of twofold sometimes. It's the hiring process. Who are you hiring? But then what are you doing? And so you are trying to solve that problem, which I think a lot of companies have. Obviously, if you don't have good people, it's not going to matter what you do to equip them. You're still not going to have good people. But I think this looks like something that you can go and take out then and branch out and be kind of a model for other schools or other businesses, like you said earlier. So I'll be interested to watch this and see how this unfolds. And you mentioned there's a stipend involved, kind of merit pay, but these faculty and staff that applied for this position or these 8 positions, they didn't know that when they applied. Is that correct?
No, they did not. We told them that afterwards because we wanted to see how many actually would apply and how many truly were committed to doing more. Because it's intensive. We've put a lot on them, and they knew that on the front end. I spelled out for them in a large corporate meeting exactly what was going to be expected. So it was really refreshing to see 26 people apply, knowing that it was going to be a lot of work, and not knowing that they were going to get extra pay for it.
You talk about intense. Being a headmaster, being a head of school, starting a new program. Doing all this stuff is a pretty intense thing and takes a lot of your time, but you also have a family. How do you kind of balance? And that word sometimes is, you don't truly know what the meaning of balance is sometimes, but how do you balance family? How do you balance your commitment to your 180 staff members, to your students? How do you work all that in?
Yeah, and the reality is I'm not very good at it. That's probably my greatest weakness. I can tend toward being a workaholic. What I've learned over the years, and what I really have to be very focused on is I have to make sure that my room of people that I work with is small. And I've got to pour into that group very strongly so that they can pour into everybody else. I try to be available to all of our employees. I try to be around. I try to be visible. But the reality is a large majority of what I do is behind the scenes. It's resource driven. It's fundraising driven. It's being in the community. It's engaging the community. And so it's very difficult to pour into 180 people. I mean, honestly, it's not possible for one person. And so I try to pour into my senior administrators as much as I possibly can, and then I'm highly scheduled. Again, I'm not great at this. This is probably my greatest weakness, and my wife would be the first one to tell you that. I'm highly scheduled. I block out. I'm very specific in my schedule. I will block out time. I'll ask my wife, hey, what days this week do you want to go get lunch? And I'll put it in my calendar where nobody else can get in that time slot. Because it is possible that I may show up here at like on a Monday. If it's a board meeting day, I may show up here at 7:30 in the morning, and I may not leave till 9:30 or 10 that night. And so I have to be very specific in my calendar about, okay, on Monday, if I know that's going to happen, then on Tuesday and Wednesday, I need to leave early, and I need to go be dad, and I need my kids to see me involved in their lives. I need to find opportunities to go, if I'm going to go on a classroom walk, if I'm going to go pop in, I need to make sure I pop into my kids' rooms. So they see me and they see that I care about them and that I care about what they're doing today. I try to sign up for as many things as I can that my kids are involved in. Right now, I am the 5- and 6-year-old flag football coach for the Mount Pisgah Patriot football program, which is not nearly as glamorous as it sounds. But it's a great community thing. Our parents see me engaged in my boys' lives, and our high school assistant principal is my assistant coach. So we're building a relationship there, and our wives are building relationships, and our kids are building relationships. And my kids know every Thursday night I'm taking them to practice, and every Saturday morning I'm going to be right there with them at their game, and that's. I go back to what Dan Cathy and Truett Cathy always said. The most important thing you do, or the most important thing in your life may not be what you do, but who you raise. And I have 4 children that need me to be dad first and foremost, and they will always come before those 180 employees.
Now, are you calling the plays on Saturday morning, or do you have an offensive coordinator doing that?
I am not. My high school assistant principal is handling that. Calling plays is pretty simple in 5- and 6-year-olds. It's okay. You're running the ball this time.
And start off right. Start off right. Yeah, if you go left, that's fine.
Yeah. No, it's as simple as you 5 don't move. Every play, you stand right here. And, all right, you 3 who actually know what you're doing, you're getting the ball this time. Okay, now you're getting the ball this time. So it's not nearly as glamorous or complicated as it sounds.
Where can people connect with you or find out more about you or your school and what you're doing? Yeah,
we are actually... Our website is not great. It's average, but it's www.mountpisgahschool.org. We're actually in the middle of a redo. Our new website will launch in December, so because of that, we're not really updating the current one, just the things that we have to do. But starting in December, we'll have a really nice, high video, very graphic, interactive site. But again, that's mountpisgahschool.org. But yeah, that's probably the easiest thing. I love social media. I'm on Twitter. I'm on Instagram. I'm on Facebook. my Twitter account is just simply my name, @Ruston Pierce. So yeah, any of those.
Okay, and we'll put those in the show notes as well so people can connect if they would like, or administrators or educators that are listening. I would recommend definitely reaching out to Ruston and talking to him about his program and how he's built teams at all different schools that he's been. You mentioned before you up in Knoxville, you really took it to the next level with social media. Have you been able to do the same at Mount Pisgah?
I was very blessed. When I got here, shortly before I got here, they had hired a new marketing and communications guy, and he actually used to be the director of Bloomberg Sports. And he just decided he wanted to do something different with his life. He was a social media guru, and he was already doing exactly what I would have wanted to do. And so the first time he and I met, I walked in and said, here are all the things I want to see happen. And the vast majority of the things on the list he was already doing. So that made the transition here really simple and really kind of fast forwarded us ahead of where I'd hoped to be. I had hoped to be in a year where we already were. So it really helped significantly in the marketing process. And he's been a huge blessing.
You mentioned earlier that you schedule your time a lot. You're intentional about, you're very scheduled. Is there a specific tool or productivity app or resource, software, anything like that you would recommend or that's really specific to helping you out day to day?
I would love to say that our administrators actively use Trello. That would be my preference, but I'm still teaching them that we are going to use Trello. I love Trello. I think it's a phenomenal software to collaborate. I think it's phenomenal to get people on the same page and minimize meetings, because I used to be in schools where we would meet to meet, and meetings would take forever, and they were not agenda driven. And honestly, that's what was happening here before I got here, and it was a big culture shock to my administrators that no, we're not going to just come and sit around the table and bounce ideas and talk. We're going to have an agenda. The agenda is going to be set. When the agenda is done, we're not talking about anything else. We're moving on and we're going and doing. We will have action items that come out of our agenda, and I'm actually going to follow up and ask you, did you do this? And so Trello is a great resource to streamline those action items. I would love to say we use it religiously. We're definitely still learning to use it.
You had mentioned Pat Lencioni's book, The Advantage, earlier on. Is there any other books or podcasts or things like that you consume or that you'd recommend in terms of growing and developing as a person or a leader?
Yeah, I think Andy Stanley has two, Making Vision Stick and Visioneering, specifically Visioneering. I thought Visioneering was a phenomenal book that was extremely practical. So many people, when they talk about vision casting, it's very philosophical, it's very theoretical, and you read it and go, well, that sounded great, but I have no idea how to do that. I always felt like Visioneering was a great book that actually told you, okay, nuts and bolts, here's what you go do. And I still to this day use tons of principles that I learned in Visioneering.
Excellent. Well, we'll end it with this. The last question. If you could meet or spend time with somebody that you don't currently know or haven't met before, who would be that person or people? I'm a huge Lencioni fan, and I think I would love to just sit and pick his brain. I think 5 dysfunctions of a team, if you walk into an organization that clearly isn't healthy, I would immediately do the 5 dysfunctions of a team with the executives and really identify, okay, what are our issues? And then once we identify what the issues are, then I would do the advantage with them and talk through, okay, how do we move past this? What's our action steps? How are we going to solve this? I think his books are so incredibly practical, and I'm real specific about that. You asked earlier what I do to kind of develop myself or grow myself. One thing I didn't say is I'm very, very specific about what conferences or trainings I go to. I read between the lines, and if it sounds like it's going to be very theoretical or very, very philosophical, I don't go because it's going to be a waste of time.
I want to hear practical application. I want to hear, here are the things that we did. Here's data. This is factual. This isn't somebody's just grand idea. This we've done this. Here it is. Because I can take that and I can process it and go, okay, would this work for us or would it not? If it did work for us, how would we do it? Can we do it the way they did it? That's the kind of information I want. And I think Lencioni does a phenomenal job of unpacking that and really helping people understand, look, this is what it looks like for you right now. And I think that's invaluable.
Excellent. I appreciate that, Ruston. Great insights. These were some good nuggets that you provided with us today. So thanks a lot for joining us and for coming on the show.
Absolutely. Thank you.
That was a great conversation with Ruston Pierce. He provided a lot of insights, and I encourage any business or school that wants to better develop their staff for any future leadership roles that they might have to contact Ruston. We'll put his information in the show notes, and he has had success everywhere he's been, and I have no doubt that this mentoring program will also be a success, and he'll grow it to even a larger scale. Thanks again for listening today, and please take just a quick second to subscribe if you haven't already done so you don't miss any future episodes. And until next time, remember that success is a choice. What choice will you make today?